Well, greetings, my 1020 fans. And first, we're going to think about that exam on literary terms review sheet. So, to follow along with me, go to content and then to course documents and then to exam on literary terms review sheet. So, after you've read through this sheet and watched this accompanying video and carefully studied the required content, please take that exam on literary terms during week 13. Excuse me. So that's Monday the 15th of November through Sunday the 21st. The exam will close at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 21st, and if you haven't taken it prior to that time, you'll receive a 0. So you have a week in which to take it. So by taking the exam, you are verifying that you agree to the following pledge. I pledge not to cheat in any way when taking this quiz, nor to give or receive any help during the process of taking this quiz. I further pledge that all work will be my own. So, things to study. You want to look over that What is Literature handout or document from way back at the beginning of the semester and focus mainly on the definition of literature and of the canon. That's one you certainly should know. What is the literary canon? What makes the literary way of reading different from normal reading, and what does literature do? Then you want to look over the elements of fiction. You want to focus on characterization. So what are all the different characters, and what are the elements of characterization, and then the dramatic plot structure. Look over that understanding character document and focus on how character is revealed. So if you remember, it's what the character says and does, what other characters, how they respond, physical appearance, and the author's own comments. The definitions of protagonist and antagonist, the definitions of flat and round characters, and the definition of the word epiphany. So remember, epiphany is that aha moment, right? And you want to know the difference between a flat character, a round character, and a dynamic character. So dynamic characters always change, and the purpose, in fact, is for them to change. That's the whole point of the work. Round characters feel like real human beings. They have that much depth, and they can change. They may not always change, but a dynamic character will always change. A flat character just doesn't change at all, and doesn't feel as real as a living, breathing, complicated person. Look over the elements of poetry document. Focus on the definition of poetry at the top of the page and the definitions of the following terms: imagery, personification. Think of Princess Fufu being thought of as a human. Rhyme, both true and slant. So true rhyme, identical sounds like move and groove. Slant rhyme, close sounds like move and love, but not identical. Alliteration, where we begin words with the same sound. See, I just did it. Scansion, and I'm not going to ask you to scan a poem, but I'm going to ask you what scansion is. So know the definition. Know the difference between denotation and connotation. So denotative meaning and connotative meaning. Denotative, think dictionary. Dictionary meaning the literal meaning of a word. But the connotative meaning is all the associations that we make with a word, right? And then know the definition of a sonnet, 14 lines of iambic pentameter. And there are two kinds, Shakespearean and Italian, also called Petrarchan. Look over the elements of drama document and focus on the following: the definitions of drama in medias res, asides, soliloquies, and chorus. And all the documents are found by going to content and then clicking on course documents. So the first part of this exam will consist of 10 multiple choice questions in which you'll be asked to choose one correct answer. And here's an example of what one of those questions might look like. The three major genres, and remember that's a word that means types or kinds of literature, consist of A, fictional stories, poems, and plays. B, fictional stories, creative nonfiction, and poetry. C, gothic horror, science fiction, and romance. Or D, fictional stories, poems, and essays. So the correct answer is A. And it's easy to remember because that's what we've studied this semester, and that's how our units are divided. Short fiction, poems, plays, right? A little bird said, oh, that question just might be on that exam on literary terms. And those of you who are watching this video, you got it. And those of you who ain't watching it, you ain't got it. So the second part of the exam will consist of 10 fill-in-the-blank questions. So a listing of the possible answers will be provided to you, but there will be more possibilities than actual space for answers. So here's an example of what one of those might look like. A blank character is one that does not change or grow and may also be referred to as a stock character. Well, if you said a flat character, you are correctamundo. And that little birdie said, that's probably going to be on the exam on literary terms too. So if you watch the video, you're good. Each answer is worth 5 points for a total of 100, excuse me, and the exam will be timed. So now let's look quickly at that document entitled How to Analyze a Film, because it will be helpful to you. I apologize that I'm having voice trouble, but I have been teaching or making videos all day long. So again, you'll get to this document in course documents, and you'll just look for how to analyze a film. As you know, they're all in alphabetical order. Hopefully you know that by now. So the characteristics, films are similar to novels or short stories, obviously, in that they tell a story. They include the same genres or types or kinds of stories: romantic, historical, detective stories, thrillers, adventure stories, horror, science fiction. But films might also include subgroups like action, comedy, tragedy, westerns, war films. The methods you use to analyze a film are closely related to those used to analyze literature. But nevertheless, films are multimedia. They're visual media made for viewers. So films take command of more of our senses to create special atmospheres, feelings, or emotions. So along with the literary elements like plot, setting, characterization, structure, and theme, which make up the text or the screenplay, there are a lot of different film techniques that are used to tell the story or the narrative. And attention is paid to things like the sound, the music, the lighting, the camera angles, and the editing. So what's important is to focus on how all those elements are used together to make a good film. So here's a list of the elements and questions to help you when you're analyzing film. And all this gives you material to write about in paper 3. So the contents, the film facts, the title, the year it was produced, the nationality, the names of the actors, the name of the director, the genre, the type of film. What main genre does it fall under? Is it romantic, historical, detective, a thriller, adventure, horror, sci-fi? What subgrouping does it fall into? Action, comedy, tragedy, war, westerns. Setting, a description of where and when the story obviously is happening. So is it taking place in the present, the past, or the future? What aspects of setting are we made aware of? Like geography, weather conditions, the physical environment, the time of day. Where are we in that opening scene? Plot and structure. What are the most important sequences? How is the plot structured? Is it linear? Does it tell the story in order, in chronological order? Or is it presented through flashbacks? Or is it a combination? Are there several plots running parallel to each other? How is the suspense built? And do any events foreshadow what's to come? So conflict or tension is usually the heart of the film. It's related, obviously, to the main characters. How would you describe the main conflict in this film? Is it internal, where the character is suffering inwardly or, experiencing some sort of conflict emotionally? Is it external, caused by the surroundings or the environment that the main character finds himself or herself in? Is it both? So characterization deals with how the characters are described through dialogue, by the way they speak, physical appearance, thoughts and feelings, interaction, the way they act toward the other characters. Are they static, flat characters who just don't change? Do they develop by the end of the story? What type of characters are they? What qualities stand out? Are they stereotypes? Are they just sort of what we expect? Are they believable? And the narrator point of view. So the narrator is the person telling the story. So is there a narrator in the film? If so, who? Point of view means obviously through whose eyes the story is being told. So through whose eyes does the story unfold? Or maybe there is no one character through whose eyes the story is unfolding. Is the story told in a first-person eye point of view, or through an off-screen narrator, or maybe there is no narrator? Imagery. So in film, imagery are the elements used to create pictures in our brains, and they might include symbols. So when something stands not only for itself, its literal meaning, but also for something else, a figurative meaning, like the feather in the film Forrest Gump, which symbolizes Forrest destiny. So think of the symbols in Amistad, and there are several of them that are really important, like the plant, for example, and like the lion's tooth. What images are used in the film? Think of the color, the objects. Can you find any symbols? And then the theme. What are the universal ideas shining through the film? So this says, in other words, what is it about in general? But remember, theme is not just the topic. Theme is the significance of the topic. So I would respectfully disagree with that little addition there to that handout. Cinematic effects. So this is important, and you can certainly write about this. Soundtrack includes the dialogue and the music, any of the sounds in the film. So it enhances the atmosphere of the film. So what effect does the choice of the music have? Does it suit the theme? And are any particular sounds accentuated as you're listening? Think about what the film would be like without that particular piece of music, or without a sound being accentuated. My husband is a retired audio mixer engineer, and that's what he's done all of his life. And when we lived in LA, we both worked at a studio on Melrose Avenue, and he did a lot of ADR, audio digital replacement, where a character in a film, an actor would come in and replace the audio that had taken place in the actual filming with some new audio to sort of enhance it. And so that's really an important part of the film. And then use of the camera. So a camera shot is based on the camera's distance from the object, and the four basic shots are a close-up, so a very close shot where the camera lens focuses in on some detail of the actor's face, a medium shot where the camera lens picks up some background or maybe the upper half of the actor, a full shot where the camera lens has full view of the actor, or a long shot, which is taken at a distance from the actor or an object. So what kind of camera shots can you identify in the film? How are they used? How do they sort of make a certain scene more prominent? The camera angle is how the camera is tilted while filming. So it may be straight on, so it's at the same height as the actor's face or the object. It may be high, so it's filming above the actor or the object. It may be low, looking up, or it may be oblique, sort of sideways, and that's kind of a technique that they're using a lot lately. So does the way in which the camera is held say anything about the character? Lighting, that's focusing our attention on the main character or maybe an object. It also sets the mood or the atmosphere. So high key lighting is bright and illuminating, while low key lighting is darker with a lot of shadows. What special lighting effects are used during the important scenes of Amistad? And filters are often used to soften and reduce the harsh contrast in lighting. They can be used to eliminate haze or ultraviolet light or glare from water when shooting outside. And using colors like red or orange can enhance the feeling of a sunset. What effect might using a filter have had on a scene in Amistad? And what colors feel dominant in some of those important scenes? And then editing, the way in which a film editor together with the director cuts and assembles the scenes. So the way the scenes are joined together creates the rhythm of the film. Scenes can be long and drawn out, they can be short and choppy. Can you see a kind of pattern to how the scenes are cut in Amistad? How would you describe the pace or the tempo of the film? So finally, when you're analyzing films for schoolwork or projects, you might be asked to use some or all of the characteristics on this list. Link them together, the ones that seem most logical, and try to think of the film holistically and how the elements mentioned above are working together to bring out that main message, also called the theme of the film. Thanks, guys.